Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome. As you get on in and start rolling in, uh, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know who you are, where you're coming from, perhaps what you do at your organization. If you're from Packback, feel free to say hello in the chat. But everyone, feel free to say hi in the chat. Thanks so much for joining us this wonderful Thursday, pre-afternoon or afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. I think a lot of us are probably tuning in from Florida, if I had to guess. So yeah, right at noon. Thanks for joining us during your lunchtime. So as you come on in, introduce yourself in the chat. Where are you coming from? What institution are you coming from? What's your role at the institution? I'm going to go through some housekeeping before we get started with some introductions and agenda. But webinar is absolutely recorded. It's going to be accessible. It'll be sent to you, but it'll also be accessible on packback.co/webinars. It'll be on YouTube, so this will be recorded. And you'll also gain access to the deck that we're using today. So just a couple of slides, but if you want them, they'll be accessible. Please use the Q&A feature to ask questions. I'm going to be monitoring the Q&A, so that's a great place to go for questions. And then use the chat to share resources, to share thoughts. I have a wonderful colleague, Naomi Campbell, the Naomi Campbell, we've been joking about that today, who is going to be in the chat, sharing resources, moderating that, letting me know if anything pops up that's worthy of discussion. But questions, put them in the Q&A function. We will get to them. So today we have a small crew. My name is Kelsey Berenger. I am the CEO of Packback, an AI-enabled writing and critical thinking platform. I started my career in the high school chemistry and physics classroom. So I taught for a few years before joining Packback as employee number 26 and the implementation team, working with higher education faculty, and was fortunate enough to be asked to step in as CEO 2 years ago. So I am so happy to be joined by Nestor. So Nestor, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, the work you do at Miami-Dade is amazing. Can't wait to have this discussion.
Hi, thank you. Welcome, everyone, and thank you, Kelsey, for inviting me today. My name is Nestor Pereira. I am the Vice Provost for Academic and Learning Technologies at Miami-Dade College. Myself and my team, we oversee our learning management system. We oversee other academic technologies, as well as the entire online program for MDC. So I'm super happy to be here with you today.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we are going to have a really wonderful conversation today. We're going to talk about some of the work that Miami-Dade has been doing for years to incorporate AI to empower teaching and learning and benefit students. And most recently, a strategy around AI enhanced courses at MDC. And then we're going to pick Nestor's brain about choosing the right AI tool. I think there's been a lot of really great discussion around how we actually screen these tools to solve problems and not just get distracted by shiny objects, which we can do as human beings, right? When new stuff comes around. And then we're going to dig into academic integrity. Again, I've just been really blown away with the innovation and empathy at Miami-Dade College. I'm excited to just really dig into how you've been handling change management and kind of this chaotic Wild West that we're in right now. Are we never not in a Wild West of a situation? So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to you. We're going to talk about AI enhanced courses at Miami-Dade. Before we actually talk about what is an AI advanced enhanced course, there we go, those are the words. Nestor, would you mind just shedding light on basically how this all came about and why you implemented this AI enhanced course strategy on your online courses?
Sure. So, for many years, we've, before I guess AI became what it is now, right? We've been using tools such as Packback and other tools that have used artificial intelligence to enhance courses. And really, we found that with so many, technology tools that are currently out there, our students wanted to know what these tools meant for them, how it was going to actually help them with their coursework, how it's going to help the faculty member reach those students. And typically with online courses, and this is something not just at MDC, but I think kind of countrywide, you basically see some pass rates kind of lag a little bit behind other modalities, right? So we wanted to see how we could, label these courses as AI enhanced based on the tools that we had available and tools that we were kind of looking for. We had a set of courses that we had implemented some artificial intelligence in, some were Packback, some were other tools that we had. And we wanted to be able to label those for students so they understood, with all the noise of AI that's currently out there, right? A lot of courses might be using it, but they're not aware of what the tool is or what it actually does. And we see students really engaging with the AI. So the whole idea to label them as AI enhanced was really to make sure that the students understood what they were getting as a student in the course and what kind of support they were getting, from this technology.
Amazing. And I think we have a visual of this too. So if you could tell us a little bit more about where AI enhanced courses are implemented and then the experience for students, just a little later.
Absolutely. So what we decided to do is right from, within our course catalog and our class search, when the students go to, select courses, we have a filter at the bottom with a course attribute that says AI enhanced instruction. And what that'll do is it'll bring up all of the courses and sections at the college that currently have that, right? So what we have to do on the back end is we have to make sure that that course has the technology that we're saying, that it has artificial intelligence built in, and that it's actually being used, right? So on our end, we do a little bit of legwork to make sure that those get labeled like that, so the students are able to, to pick those. We've been seeing, the particularly for MDC Online is where they're labeled as AI enhanced right now, although that could, be in any modality, honestly. But really, MDC Online has been at the forefront of really bringing these newer tech tools to our students, particularly with artificial intelligence. So we've really been kind of using that as a bit of a kind of marketing for MDC Online, right? Come to us, we've got AI tools and your course is enhanced. And what we've been seeing is the courses that have the AI enhanced attribute on them, we've been monitoring how quickly they fill, what the interest is. We've been doing like post surveys of the students. And what we have found is really that those courses that have the AI enhanced instruction, attribute on there, the students are actually going towards those first before others that may not have, right? And there's a lot that obviously goes into that we can talk about, faculty buy-in and making sure that it's actually being used. But we found that this from the start was a very successful means of communicating to our students which courses, which sections had artificial intelligence in them, which ones did not, and then explaining to them what that actually means in the context of that course.
Yes, absolutely. I think super timely because we're starting to see so much research, market research about employers wanting students with AI literacy and AI skills, students really searching in their educational institutions for pathways to incorporate AI into workflows, to learn about AI. So it seems like you're really just meeting the needs of the market, the institutional goals, right, to prepare our students for,
Right.
career. So it doesn't surprise me that your students are really responding to this. But you had mentioned, let's talk about faculty. So I'd love to hear just at a very high level, how have faculty responded to this initiative? Anything surprising from the get-go?
So a couple of things. So, the faculty, we're very big on training at the college. Our professional development department is excellent. And that's really where we find success is faculty that are properly trained and to use the technology. One interesting, tidbit that we found was, once we started labeling these as AI enhanced instruction, I was getting a lot of calls. I was getting a lot of calls. How can I be part of that? How can my class, integrate AI? I'd like that designator because maybe I'm already using that in my class, right? Maybe I'm using a different form of AI in that class, right? So we had a lot of really positive feedback from faculty in terms of wanting that designation because they either wanted to start integrating new tools like Packback or other AI tools that we have, or they've already been using them, but they just haven't actually explained that, right? Explained that in the course syllabi, had this attribute placed on there. We've gotten a lot of excitement there. And as far as like going back to the training piece, once a faculty member shows interest in an AI tool, they will be, trained properly and make sure that it's meeting the needs of the students in the course. And at the end of the day, we see a lot of success with faculty that get trained and are excited. And really, specifically with AI, with a lot of the tools we have, the way that we've been able to grow that has really been faculty to faculty member, making those connections and promoting particular tools that work. So yeah, so we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from them.
That's incredible. I think we assume when we're gonna with change management, right? Like when I'm bringing in new technology to my company, whatever it is, we kind of assume there's going to be resistance, but
Right.
it sounds like because you're professional, and I've actually seen a picture of your professional development, like in action. It's amazing. It's really, really cool. But oftentimes change management, the solution or the salve is just education. It's knowledge. It's consistent and constant. This is how this is going to work. This is how it's going to work until it becomes comfortable, and then folks don't feel fear the change, right? So it's not surprising that the strength in professional development is causing your faculty to be excited about the change instead of, wait, you want me to incorporate AI in my course? I'm not ready. Have you run into any faculty that have felt pressured to incorporate AI and maybe not ready yet? Has that been a reality for you?
So yeah, absolutely. We've seen some faculty that have had a little bit of resistance. They've been concerned, really, right? They've been concerned about what AI is going to evolve into, what that means for their students, what that means for themselves, honestly. And what we try to do is really come at it from a solution standpoint, right? AI can be used to solve problems. And that's the direction that we take with them, right? We're not saying AI is going to replace everything because we believe it will not. AI is never going to replace the human aspect and that interaction because I don't believe it ever will. We really try to empower the faculty to solve problems that perhaps are unique to them and their students and their courses. And once we have those conversations with them, what tool can we find to help you solve your particular problem in your course? And once we go in that direction, we see faculty being a lot more accepting of the AI in their course, right? And again, not never want to downplay the training aspect. That is so critical and so important that they feel comfortable with the technology, that they understand how it can be used and how it can really benefit their students. And once we have those conversations, they're far more open, to exploring that technology.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And just as a high level overview, this is kind of what we discussed, but one thing that I thought was really interesting coming from this initiative and this approach was that you saw online course enrollment increase after you implemented this. So if you wouldn't talk a little bit more about kind of some of the impact that you've seen and why you think this happened.
Yeah, so we a couple years ago we decided to have a strategy where we implemented new tech tools in a very particular way, and we wanted to see if they had any impact on our enrollment and even more importantly on our success. But speaking of enrollment, we definitely wanted to increase the visibility of the technology tools, right? And since a lot of our courses have different tech tools, have different AI perhaps in them, we had to find one kind of way to bring that across to the students. And that's how that AI enabled, AI enhanced, designator came about, really. When we were talking to students about what they were looking for in an online class, one of the biggest gaps, or I guess one of their biggest concerns, is that they felt disconnected from either the professor sometimes or the coursework because it's totally asynchronous, right? They feel very separated from that experience, and some of them, particularly for our first time in college students, this may very well be the first online course that they've taken,
Yeah.
at this level. So we wanted to be able to communicate with our students and let them know that we do have tools that will be able to interact with them, right? Connect them a little more to the subject matter, be able to interact with them. We have other tools that, in terms of conversational AI that we use with the students to be able to do that. And once we explained what that meant and we labeled it as such, we definitely saw, on the front end, an increase in enrollment in those courses. But then on the back end, in terms of our pass rates, we also saw an increase there as well. And part of that, our students were telling us, is that they found the content engaging, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes, depending on how the course is designed, the content can be engaging or not, right? But adding this bit into it and labeling it like that, we've been able to see increases not only in our enrollment, but also in our pass rates. And this summer, we kind of settled at a number now of a 25% increase for our summer enrollment for MDC Online, which is the highest right now at Miami-Dade College. And we're kind of leading the pack in that. So we're super excited about, and this is just the beginning of it. This is just the first steps of our AI-enabled, courses that we have. So we're definitely looking forward to the future and what that brings.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, you're drawing the attention of a forward-thinking student, right? And I don't even know if it's forward-thinking anymore, of just like a realistic student who's like, I need AI skills. So you're drawing their attention, you're bringing them in, but then because the AI tools you're using are powerful and vetted, then you're seeing the impact on student learning, student engagement, student persistence. So let's talk about that a little bit. And
Sure.
someone actually just asked the question, what are these AI tools? So if you could give us a really high level overview, maybe perhaps on how you choose AI tools and then some of the AI tools that you do use. I mean, transparently, one of them is Packback, but if you could talk a little bit about the methodology, what you've learned, and how you've taken that into just any tool adoption, it'd be great to hear high level stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we always start from, point one is, what's the problem we're trying to solve? What is it? Is it pass rates? Is it more student engagement? Is it, something we're trying to assist faculty with, something that they're looking for? And then, we take a look out at the market. What is currently out there? We always have a very kind of step-by-step fashion in how we choose these tools. One of the things, when I came to the college several years, almost 5 years now, one of the things that I think a lot of institutions fall into is, we just chose it because so and so liked it. We chose it. We keep renewing that contract, right? We keep renewing that contract. We've always had this tool, and faculty are using it, and we've just always had it. But the reality is, what is the outcome of that tool? Is there something measurable that we have, which is incredibly important to us at MDC?
Mhm.
First, it starts with the problem. Second, it starts with taking a look at the landscape of what's out there, right? Third is really, we're very big on piloting with a small group of faculty. And reason being, as an administrator, as a former teacher myself, we all have different perspectives on how a tool works and how effective it is, and perhaps maybe that qualitative experience that someone might have, right? And our faculty are very good at telling us, this is working, this is not working, and does it bear out in the data? And normally it does. So we're very deliberate about this stepwide, or this step fashion that we do to attain these tools. Particularly now with AI, there are so many tools out there. We're getting bombarded, and I'm sure everyone watching is getting bombarded every day with either a new startup, AI startup,
Yep.
new tool, current tools that you might have are being enhanced with AI. That's happening constantly. But at the end of the day, what we do is we really take a look at the data. Did this particular tool affect our student success in a positive way? Are we getting good feedback from our faculty? Are we getting good feedback from our students? Do our students feel more connected to that? That data really drives what we do. And sometimes it's difficult to parse that out and figure out, is it the AI that's working? Is it maybe they've got extra tutoring? Is it we're not kind of sure? So we have to really dive deep into the data and speaking with students to figure out how this particular tool is working. And specifically with AI, we're using several different tools. Like Packback is obviously one of them. Where I just came out of a meeting earlier with WeVideo from PlayPosit, that they're integrating some new AI features there. We work at enhancing our courses with a company called Chiron Learning, but that's more generative and interactive AI that we do. And some of these are still in the pilot phase. So we're taking a look and see, how do the students react? What do the pass rates look like after when compared to perhaps a faculty member that is a control, they have a control group and a group that's not using it and how that works. But we really follow the data. And then ultimately we develop those relationships to figure out. It's not easy right now. There's tons of AI tools out there. Tons of tools are being enhanced with AI. But taking a step fashion like we do has been very successful for us.
Yeah, and it sounds not too dissimilar. I don't want to make meaning, but not too dissimilar of how you would really choose any technology tool, right?
Right.
Like, do we have a problem? What is the what are the suites of options? How are we going to track the ROI of this tool? It's just now the added, I think, noise of AI. Is there anything else that you've had to consider when you're choosing an AI tool that you might not have had to consider with like any other technology tool that wasn't AI enhanced?
Sure, there's a lot of things. The number one thing that comes to mind is privacy, and how that data, the student information, is being stored, where it's being stored. If the AI is using, a language model, where's that data being stored? Is it just within our institution, which is something that we do, right? For the most part, particularly for the large language models that are out there, we try to keep that information just to the institution. So it's not feeding, externally. That's one thing with AI. The second thing that that we deal with is the AI, obviously, is it effective? But the question also comes about, even from the students sometimes, yes, they feel connected, a little more connected with the AI, but is it too much? Is the AI acting too much on behalf of the faculty member, right? Is
Mhm.
that right? Because the faculty member is going to be the authority and the primary person always in that course. Is the AI overstepping something that perhaps the faculty member is doing, or is planning on doing? So we keep an eye out on that as well, because we don't want to create a scenario where the AI is kind of overwhelming, right? We need to see it as additive, as supportive to the faculty member or student, and never as replacing.
Yeah, yeah. It's the humans in the loop is
You,
kind of AI ethics policy there.
yep.
I was reading, I'm sure a lot of folks in the room read this New York Magazine article called something about cheating. It was one of those, really long articles about cheating. I'm sure somebody who's from Packback in the chat can share the article from New York Mag, but it had it was like, how fearful are we for a world in which a student generates an essay with AI and then educator gives feedback with AI, and it's just basically two AI agents talking to each other, and like, how do we prevent that? And I think to your point, like, the way that I always recommend is look at the pedagogy that drives that AI tool and then the AI ethics policy of that AI tool. Because if it is a tool for teaching and learning, then it should be based off of principles of teaching and learning. And it'll prevent, this like AI agent back and forth dynamic from happening, hopefully.
Right, right. Yeah, and I read an article too that says, are we all becoming editors, right? Instead of
Yeah.
writing, right? Are we just editing what AI is producing? So yeah.
Yeah. As long as we're in the loop, I'm okay with, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Be
I
in there somewhere.
the existential crisis of just like we get to the future where it's just AI agents speaking and writing on behalf of us. But one thing that individual from my organization put together is just a 4-question framework for evaluating AI tools. So problem trying to solve very much aligns with step number 1. And again, I think this works for any technology. Is the AI generating or instructing? So this is very specific for the educational market, right? We want to make sure that we're enhancing, let's say, a teacher impact without replacing them. We want to make sure we're enhancing learning without doing the learning on behalf of the student. Can the data be trusted and measured? My favorite thing is, if you don't pay for it, you do not own it.
Right.
So when it comes to AI, when it comes to generative AI use, if you don't want situation where we're training models based off of, private data and violate FERPA, you're going to have to pay for it. And then who owns the learning? Is it the student or the AI? So anything you would add to this, Nestor, based off our conversation, or any feedback you'd add? Maybe things that aren't clear here.
Yeah, I think this is great. And this is very similar to how we, tackle the evaluation of AI tools and just tools in general. It can it can cross over to other academic and technology tools as well. So the generating or instructing is very important. We're very much on the instructing side of it, right? To make sure that the students are getting that feedback. But yeah, no, this is great.
Yeah, thank you. And we had a good question come through is, I think there's an assumption that, students really know a lot about AI, but it doesn't honor perhaps the fact that many students, regardless of age, regardless of demographics, might not have access to it. So I think that, assuming that students know a lot about AI is maybe a harmful assumption. And then also, not all of our students are digital natives, not all of our, even if, I befriended this LA or UCLA student who was featured in a podcast, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm young, but I'm not a digital native." But she's like, "I actually am like really quite scared of technology, and I don't really like using my phone." So these like assumptions could be pretty harmful. So how do you think about preparing all of our students, regardless of access, regardless of demographics, for kind of AI literacy? And any thoughts you have on that?
Yeah, so and we can never assume that all students are literate, right? Even in technology. Like you said, people get labeled, generations get labeled as, oh, they're digital natives and this and that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they fully understand like kind of what we're doing. So one of the things at Miami-Dade that we're doing, so our quality enhancement plan for the college is actually AI for all, which fits right into this, right? So we had asked ourselves that question a while back. And what can we do to prepare our students, right? One of the things that we did with our full-time faculty to make sure that our students are prepared, all of our full-time faculty have taken an AI course and been certified in AI. So it starts there, right? It starts with our faculty to make sure that they're fully understanding like the direction that we're headed, the pitfalls, the successes, the things we can have with AI, and be able to with their students be able to, if not like if they're not necessarily using an AI tool in their course, but to be open and transparent with the students and show the technology of things like ChatGPT and Gemini, right? Be very transparent about it with the students and how the students could use that to their benefit, right? So that's probably the biggest thing that we see as a barrier, was really if the students are experiencing it in the class in some manner, and one of the first things that the professor brings up is AI, which we feel should be in every class.
Mhm.
It's been very helpful to get our students on board. And we also did a lot of surveys of our students before we decided on this QEP of AI for all, right? And that seems to be one of the areas where the students were most interested in, had experience, but also wanted to learn. So
Yeah, I love that. And I also think too, there are a lot of students who have very low literacy, but that has no correlation to their curiosity.
right.
So even if they don't have the scaffolding, if they don't have the access, their curiosity might be high. I think we just have to assume if they're enrolled in an institution, their curiosity is probably high,
Probably want to make sure that that AI is equitable, for all of our students to have the ability to access that. And perhaps it's through Miami-Dade College, perhaps it's through other means that they have, but we wanted to make sure they had access to that as well. So as we integrate, we're getting them ready for a future workforce. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So kind of where we're going to leave the conversation, or I should say the last big topic is going to be around academic integrity and AI detection, because you started, the last thing you said was AI for all, and that means our students and our educators, right? AI for all in the learning process. So it's a balance of empowering them with AI, but then also not jeopardizing authenticity and human connection and integrity. So can you just explain a little bit more about the philosophy before we really talk about the training and the guardrails of how you have balanced innovation and also integrity?
Yeah, so I will say the number one question that I get from faculty all the time is, what do I do when a plagiarism detector detects 100% or 80% or 50% and all that? And ultimately, our philosophy, at the college, the faculty member has the ultimate say in what happens in situations like that, right? And if students are caught using, AI to write their papers and so forth. The philosophy that the college has really taken as this AI for all is really not a punitive philosophy. It's really a support philosophy for the students. Um, we feel that being punitive with the students is not super helpful, particularly if it's a first offense or if something happens initially. And that's why my recommendation, to the faculty is really just have an open conversation the first week of class and say, listen, we have AI detection tools. We're going to run them. It may come up. We understand they may not be 100% accurate, but it's going to happen. But prior to that, really what we're trying to do is try to prevent that behavior from starting. And how do we do that? So we think by having open conversations with the students, by having these AI tools that can help them and empower them to make better choices, to even give them advice on their papers that they've written, help them out. We think that that this is the way to go, right? We feel that this is just obviously the start. There's tools now that will take your generated AI and make it not generated AI and try to fool the system, right?
Yeah.
None of the tools are 100% accurate. We do know that, right? We're currently using two different tools. I saw someone asked a question, what tools are you using? So we do have Turnitin, but we're also piloting copy leaks at the same time. And one of the things that we're looking at doing is really allowing the student to work with those detectors up front and say, hey, let me run my paper, even though maybe they generated it with AI, and the system would kind of say, hey, clearly this is not cool. So maybe you need to do this and that and coach them along the way, right? So we're really trying to prevent the behavior because at the end of the day, if a student, particularly our first time in college students that come in, we see a lot of this happening. And if they are failed in that first attempt and there was no discussion about AI or maybe they weren't given a second chance or whatnot, it's really tough on those first time in college students. Should they be doing it? No, we all know that, right? Are they going to continue to try? Probably. They're going to continue to try doing it. So what we're really trying to do is be upfront about that at the beginning, and say, yes, we have detectors, but what we really want to do is prevent that behavior. We want to empower you to be better writers and to really have your own voice come across and not the voice of one of these language models. But at the end of the day, ultimately it's our faculty's decision what they want to do with that. But for the most part, our faculty have been successful at communicating with our students about that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's so important. And we talked about this a bit of like, let's imagine a first year student, it's their first course. They're either incorrectly or correctly, it doesn't really matter, accused of turning in something written by generative AI, immediate fail, immediate zero. What's the
Right.
likelihood of that student continuing in the course if they failed their first assignment or their second assignment, or third assignment? What's the likelihood of them persisting through the program? So it really is every time we make the accusation along with a zero, we are increasing the risk of that losing that student, like
Right.
pretty tremendously. Now, there's a way to make the accusation in a restorative way.
Right.
And it costs time, and we're going to talk about that. But someone asked, what is the accuracy of these tools? I'll just do a quick little like 1 minute. Plagiarism detection is pretty transparent because it's forensic science. This is a previously submitted piece of work. I'm going to match it. Plagiarism detection, easy peasy. We've nailed that one. Now it's still, the cheater's still going to cheat. They're going to find a way. They're going to, find creative ways to game the system. But with AI detection, it's statistical models. You're basically applying an LLM on top of an LLM. You're asking a new LLM, hey, would you have written this? Right? What's the likelihood that you would have written this? So it's really a statistical model. And the reason why they're not perfect is because when students are learning how to write, they might be writing in ways that are very generic and predictable. So it's easy for us to say, oh, that was totally AI generated. And you can do interesting, research where you put in something that's written way before LLMs existed, and it'll say that it's 100% AI generated. It's why students who are, let's say, neurodivergent or non-native English speakers might get over-indexed because they're writing in a way that's predictable. They're writing in patterns. So this is all likelihood. So when we accuse a student of turning in something that was written by generative AI, we're doing it without proof. We're doing it with a statistical likelihood. So it's sticky. And then, we have AI detection within our system at Packback. We tune it to be incredibly low false positive, which means it's incredibly low. That's kind of the balance you take. Is I'm gonna choose to not accuse as many students, but I'm not gonna catch any. And I get faculty members say, well, that just doesn't sound like my student. It sounds like a PhD student. I said, well, there you go. You're the AI detector because you're the content expert. And that gives you the fuel you need for a conversation. So sorry to go off on that little, side quest there to talk a little bit about how these detectors work. But Nestor, I want to hear from you. How have you helped support faculty steer into a direction of like restoration conversations, kind of a student forward approach, even when they do detect AI generated text? Because I imagine it's hard to scale that. It takes time to have those conversations.
Absolutely, it takes time, and that's one of the biggest things, right? Because what we're facing now is a lot of conversations with our students about what they're thinking. Like you said, we have students that it may show 100% AI, and they're till their last dying breath are telling you they did not, they did not use a language model to write this. So it can be really difficult. And what I found is that at the end of the day, as with our faculty, we want to do right by the student, right? Whatever that happens to be. Certainly, we want to uphold academic integrity. As part of an online campus that we are, we want to make sure that our students are actually learning the skills that they need to learn. And but there is this gray area right now where faculty are super concerned. And the way we've been able to steer this conversation a bit is twofold. One is we've found that for courses where we have AI technology integrated already, right, we're seeing less of that happen. So when we have tools that are already coaching students, either in their discussions or in papers or in things like that, we're seeing less of that happening. So that's one of the reasons why we want faculty to start integrating more of these, I guess, proactive, I'll just call it positive AI tools that really are going to enhance the student experience and make it easier for faculty as well. And then, we've done a lot of training with our faculty. Going back to that, we scaled it with having these conversations, with our training department and with our faculty on how they can, approach this. It's a super uncomfortable thing. We think often that well, faculty have been doing this for years, they can have that conversation, but sometimes it's really difficult for them to have that conversation with students to really accuse essentially and say, you did not write this, right? But we also tell faculty, trust your gut on this, right? You are like you said, you are the detector. You know your students better than anyone, better than any model out there, better than any equation that's trying to figure this out. So and for the most part, our faculty have been very supportive in having those conversations with the students, but it takes time. It takes a lot of time to do this. That's why we feel being upfront at the very beginning about what the tools we have, how we do our detection, and what tools we have to prevent them from even going there in the first place. And if we take that direction, we see it less and less in our courses. But yeah, obviously, this is nothing new. AI is a different way of the detection methods are completely different than normal plagiarism. But we feel that the faculty and most of our faculty understand that, and they're willing to work with the students to make sure that they can either redo the assignment, or that they understand these, this is what this requires, and the use of AI is not going to be acceptable, and try to find their voice in it.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I think that's where we align so tremendously, is this concept of preventing through proactivity. And I think about my high school days as a high school teacher. Everything I was doing was about expectation setting from day one, from minute one of my classroom. It's like my students know when they walk through the door exactly what to expect, what they have to do, where they have to go, what they have to grab. And such firm expectation setting, such firm scaffolding, such firm boundaries, guidelines, et cetera, all of that just prevented nonsense. Like I
Right.
didn't have to work. Of course, I'm going to have that every once in a while, my student busting through the door and causing chaos. But like for the most part, the amount of proactivity, scaffolding, expectation setting, it really, I think, prevented 90% of the behaviors I would have seen without that. And so applying those same principles throughout the educational journey outside of, classroom management, because that's a very much I think a high school teacher thing. But, I think we know that detection is a really incomplete solution to the problem of authentic learning, right? It comes down to motivation. It comes down to clarity. When we think about why students are plagiarizing in the first place or are producing work that isn't theirs, is it because they're trying to be, inappropriate and behave like unacademically? Is it because they don't know? They literally don't know that they're cheating, perhaps because everyone around them is using AI. So I'm curious, you had talked about a couple of different things as it relates to prevention. Giving them AI tools that are safe and academic, that's one way to prevent. Being really, really firm with students day one about your expectations. Educator training. Is there anything else in this kind of proactivity bucket that you'd recommend others do if they're really trying to avoid students from acting a fool in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the transparency at the start is super important. We've seen also, faculty that uh, upfront they're telling the students, listen, whatever you submit, it's going to be checked. So
Mm.
don't do this. So please don't do that, right? Even just that initial conversation, we've seen, classes with less, plagiarism or AI, coming through. So I think that that's great. And really, again, I kind of go back to the integration of really good AI tools, and that gives students an idea of what the possibilities are in a really productive way for them. They can see, oh, this is really cool. The AI can coach me on how I said that. So maybe I can try wording it a different way. It's getting me to think perhaps differently, and it gives them, I think it builds a little bit of confidence in them as well. To say, what I can do. So this is gonna be my voice, my submission, and this has been helpful. So we've seen those two things, just transparency and really good AI tools that they can use positively. And even things like, obviously, the number one is ChatGPT that's out there that everyone uses, right? I welcome faculty to walk their students through ChatGPT and say, this is how ChatGPT works, right? And if you do this, this is what it's going to produce for you, but you can't say that you did that because you didn't, right? So that's really where we're focused on. And for the most part, I also want to give a shout out to our students, right? So if for some reason it comes up as detected AI, I mean, 99% of the time the student is like, yes, you're right. I did it, right? And a lot of times we'll give them a second opportunity and have that discussion. So our students, sometimes they're aware that it is a type of plagiarism, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they think this is a tool I can use, it's fine, right? So we think that transparency is very important.
Absolutely. And to that point too, if there is no expectation set at the beginning of a course, I think it opens up the opportunity that a student accidentally, right, submit something that's a little bit overly generated, because they might be going from course to course. One has expectations, one doesn't. It's confusing. So it really, I think, is on every faculty member to make sure in their course it's clear from day one and then consistently reinforced. I'm glad you also brought up this transparency piece, because this was a research study that was done. So what you're experiencing is 100% rooted in research. when we tell students that a detection technology is going to be used, detection drops significantly. And because they're more likely to do their own work, they're more likely to learn. That's a aha. But then also, if we give access to these detection tools from a student perspective, you also then see that trend increase as well. And I know you had talked about that's absolutely something that you're looking to do, which is give the students access to detection technologies so that they can, again, prevent turning
it.
in something, yeah, that is AI generated.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that that is probably the most important part is that upfront. That upfront transparency is really when we see those courses that do that. The usage of AI kind of goes down. So most definitely.
Yeah, I love that. I think we're just either about to launch or launching that functionality. And it's like the way I think about it is pre-flight check. Like if I, as a student, have the opportunity to resolve all of my writing and grammar mechanical errors, right? But then also get an idea of what the educator is going to see from a plagiarism and AI detection standpoint. I can resolve all of that and maybe avoid making that life-changing mistake.
Yeah, and students sometimes think there's always a chance I could like put it through and it might go through the detector. So that's kind of like sometimes how students think, but hopefully when they're able to interact with that detector beforehand, right? They'll see that impact, right? They'll kind of see, oh, okay, this is really not great. So
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Well, we're almost out of time. We got about 4 minutes left. So want to just ask you, is there any other final thoughts, considerations? A lot of folks in this room are, I think, excited by AI, nervous about upholding academic integrity. Probably I have like 3 to 4 existential crises a day about the future of AI and like preserving humanity. And like, what's the point of anything if we're all just going to be bots talking to each other? So any final thoughts, considerations, or advice to attendees today?
yeah, I really think that if you start from a place, particularly with AI, of a problem that you need to solve, really getting a lot of feedback from your faculty. That's incredibly important. They know the students, they know their courses, they know where the students need help, they know why students are not passing, and really understand the why. Why is this happening? And start from that point. I would also say, just generally speaking, if you have multiple products that do the exact same thing, we look at kind of consolidation if we can on products, right? Because there's so many duplications out there, not just for budgetary concerns, but also in terms of the faculty and student experience to keep that the same, right? If these AI tools are very similar, you're going to kind of want to keep that same tool going as a thread throughout your courses, and really, don't be afraid of AI. I always say we need to give our faculty and our students time to adjust to all of this. But the training piece is incredibly important with our faculty. The best proponents of any single one of our tools that we have at Miami-Dade College is our faculty. Our faculty to faculty communications, and how those cheerleaders for those tools really make it a success at the college. And then my last thing is really just keep an eye on the data. The data is going to tell you if this is the right tool to proceed with or not. And we've done, a lot of data, particularly with Packback, where we've seen the effectiveness, and we do that with all of our tools. So those are just my final thoughts, and to really just have fun with it. At the end of the day, AI keeps evolving. There's so many things we can do with it, and try to take some time for yourself to have some fun with AI as well.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us and being a part of this conversation and sharing the work you're doing. It's amazing. I think a lot of folks can learn from it. Yeah, I think whenever I give a piece of advice, it's like have some fun. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you need to block out the existential crises noise. Like don't read that article that the college essay is dead, and instead just like have ChatGPT plan a vacation for you, and it'll make you feel better about your life.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Have some fun. Well, thank you so much. And thanks everyone for joining. Recording and deck will be sent your way shortly. And thank you again, Nestor, for joining me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Kelsey.
Have a great remainder of your Thursday, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.